That man and his manga.
Is Rebirth of the Undead King worth your time? Join me and find out.
But before we get into all of that, if you're new to the channel and love all things manga and collecting, from figures to anime and light novels, do me a favour and subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss out on new weekly videos.
Hello and welcome to That Man. That is me, Merchandise, and today we are looking at, or we're having a second look at, Rebirth of the Undead King by Ink Bamboo. Now, to get things out of the way, Ink Bamboo was kind enough to reach out to me and ask me to review Volume 2 of their series. And you know what? I really enjoyed Volume 1. So I was just like, yes, please let me review it. So keep that in mind as we discuss it. Rebirth of the Undead King is an interesting title. It's a dark fantasy about a young boy named Zaros who, well, due to the meddling of a certain king, he has his entire village wiped out. Just like all of my favourite RPGs. Ah, good times, good memories of playing the PlayStation 1. However, he soon comes across a fallen god, Amro. And in his quest for revenge, he decides to essentially team up with Amro inhibiting Zaros' body, and a quest for revenge soon begins. Amro inhabiting the body of Zaros, they kind of have a bit of a give and take relationship. We kind of know that Amro's got his own agenda, while Zaros is just trying to gain the strength he needs to avenge his friends, his family, and the people he grew up knowing. Now, a lot of stuff happens in Volume 1, but it's Volume 2 that we really want to start focusing on. And interestingly enough, this title kind of does away with the whole Zaros and Amro saga for the first half of it, instead choosing to introduce a new character named Magnus. Now, Magnus is essentially, he's kind of the old wizened wizard who has been, he's starting to find that his talents are starting to fade. He's not quite as useful as he used to be. And his main concern is his granddaughter, Erin, a young girl who has been, well, rather taken in the ways of the church. Most of the plot of Volume 2 revolves around this dynamic. However, what was interesting to me was that this makes the world feel so much bigger. Now, I'm not going to lie, I did have a few little bit of issues with picking up this title again. I was quite absorbed in the whole Zaros and Amro saga that when I first picked it up, I was just like, I don't remember these characters. I was just like, were these characters once introduced earlier on, or what's going on? I can't remember it, and I'm not going to lie, it actually got to the point that I got mixed up between who Zaros and Amro actually were. It's not a bad thing, however, as I felt that based upon this, I got a huge amount of lore for the actual world. And you know what I'm like, I love a good bit of lore, especially when it makes the world feel so much bigger and so much more interesting. The plight of Magnus and his granddaughter, it's quite a tragic tale. Not something I want to get too much into, but it is something that I was quite interested with as it went along. I was really on my edge to find out what was going to happen to their fates, because I kind of expected this to be a whole of very similar to other series where they would introduce new characters and build them up, only to be stepping stones for the main protagonist. This wasn't necessarily the case, and I was really attached to the relationship dynamic between Magnus and his granddaughter. She has been taken in by the church. She has essentially been brainwashed, and he is struggling to keep her in line. She's the one bit of attachment he has still got left to his actual family, and he doesn't want to lose that. And I really like that whole aspect of it. Rebirth of the Undead King Volume 2 is just as good as the first one. Now, I feel like it's one of those series that might be a little bit better as a binge. Because it had been a few months since I'd actually read Volume 1, I did have to give myself a bit of a recap in what was going on, especially when it came to the whole Zaros Amro thing. I was kind of like, oh well, I can't. It's just the way I was. It's just because I got mixed up between who was Zaros and who was Amro, and I was like, well, I can't remember which one was particularly which. But apart from that, I had no problems with the series. I actually really enjoyed it. It's one of those ones, it's the nice amount of darkness, and I really enjoyed the two new characters produced in Volume 2. In fact, it's actually got to the point where I was actually quite sad to see it move away from them and focus back on Zaros and Amro. But at least we know that we've got a fair few characters that are particularly interesting. There are a few other characters that I introduced. They didn't really have the same appeal to me. I just kind of felt that, again, they felt like there were stepping stones, they were kind of just there, or I don't know, there just was something about some of the other characters, and I feel like there was a lot of characters being introduced only to have them written out rather quickly. For me, it wasn't something that I was particularly too fussed about, but it wasn't something that kind of hindered it. I would 100% recommend checking out Rebirth of the Undead King if you get the chance. It is a fantastic original English light novel that I would recommend you guys check out, especially if you like titles such as Overlord or others such as The Faraway Paladin. You will get a lot of great time out of this particular title. And thanks once again to Ink Bamboo for recommending it, asking me to review it. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And if you do like this, there are plenty of other great light novels and original English light novels out there, one of which will be on here. So go check that series out. You won't be disappointed.